Blast me to Bermuda! It's time for episode 14 of the Mad Merlin's Warhammer 40,000 Imperium journey. Part 1, Lore and Building. Hello and welcome back to the Mad Merlin's Warhammer 40,000 Imperium journey. We're moving on with issue 14 today. So, with this issue we get 8 miniatures, which is a container, 4 ammo crates, and 3 barrels. So we get our first terrain models, we learn new painting skills, and we also learn about using our terrain in games. So before we get into the issue, let's have a quick look at our new sprue. So as you can see, we got our container in 4, 5, 6 components. We then have the optional Aquila heads, but these are handy if you are planning to stack your towers, as they will rest on the little notch at the top of the head. We've got our storm bolters, our 4 ammo containers, and our 3 barrels. Each one has an Aquila on one side and a skull on the other, or you could, if you want to, make them double skulled or double aquilaed, but the instruction guide will tell us to use one of each for each side. If we flip over, we can see there's some nice interior detail. There's hatches on the top and bottom of each container, some nice floor paneling. We've got an exterior control panel with a little skull on. And if we have a close look on the inside, we've got an interior control panel, we've got some lights, and we've even got some vents. And we can see the ammo containers are hollow underneath, but you won't be seeing the underneath much because you'll be putting them in stacks on top of each other. So that's our container. Let's move on to our new piece of lore. And I say piece because there's only one. But first we have a battle record for our container. So we are getting battle records for terrain. So first off, the contents list, we have our munitorum armoured container, which is terrain piece A, manufactorum 1. So our new bit of lore is a faction about the Eldari. We learn to build and paint our container. And then we have a playthrough which introduces terrain rules. So, munitorum armoured container filled with valuable cargo. Or gene stealers, sometimes. Munitorum armoured containers can be found across the Imperium of mankind. They are used to transport and store valuable cargo and equipment throughout the Emperor's vast realm. So we can see our container all fully built here. This is what it will look like. Each one has the option of being equipped with 2 Sentinel Storm Bolters, which are automated firing mechanisms, mainly used for self-defense on manufactorum worlds. There's exterior lights, glows red when the container is locked and will flash when it's opened or breached. The access panel, which we looked at on the frame. There's barrels of promethium, which is the main fuel within the Imperium. And then we got ammo crates. So we've got a little bit about the STCs, the standard template constructs, which everything ever in the Imperium is recorded on an STC, which is pretty much a hard drive, which contains all the details about how to build anything from a gun all the way up to a tank, or even a Titan. There are a little bit saying about the precious cargo. And then on the back we have our battle record. So, as you can see, I've filled out 2 of the container numbers. I've left the 3rd one blank to show you how I did so. And this is how we do it. This is a D10. it has numbers on 10 sides from 0 to 9. So the 0 represents the 10, and then there's of course a 1 all the way through to 9. So what we're going to do is we have 7 squares, so we'll roll a d10 7 times and fill in each number. So our first number is 9. 7, 2. Then we got 6, 2, 9, and 7. So this container is 9726297, and it contains 5 replacement plasma coils. That could be very handy for my captain and the assaultist as a sergeant. So we've got a place to record victories for the automated stormbolters. The stormbolters could also be operated by any model touching the terrain piece. And then we have a space to score victories for the containers in general. So, like I said, we only have one piece of lore today, which is a bit about the Eldari, or the Eldar as they were known. So, a dying race, the Eldari have been in a long, slow decline since the cataclysm event they refer to as the Fall. Despite their reduced numbers, however, the Eldari's grasp of psychic powers, highly advanced technology, and determination to survive make them incredibly deadly enemies. So we go into an inquisitorial report about the Eldari, which has been written by Inquisitor Garlius Sharn. So we got some inquisitorial reports, a subject report on a captured Eldar Guardian, the origins dating back to the war in heaven against the Necrons and the Old Ones. Details about the Webway, which is the Eldar's own personal way of transporting throughout the galaxy, which is separate from the warp, and was tried to be harnessed by the Emperor during the Horus Heresy. And finally, we got a little bit of detail about the different craft worlds, and they are basically large ships that are more like floating planets than they are any sort of battleship. There's shopping districts and training grounds, shrines to the Eldar gods. Most of the constructs and buildings are made out of a material known as wraithbone, which are crafted by the bone singers. That's the end of the report by Inquisitor Sharn. So now we're going on to our build guide, and a handy tip they give you is to use elastic bands for ensuring that the container goes together nicely, and also telling you to cut through the narrower parts of a piece that attaches to the sprue to avoid damaging your model. And of course the storm bolters, which do not need to be glued in position, so that you can stack containers on top of each other. So I will get my tools ready and we will start building. So here we are, all ready to go. So we are going to build our container. I will build a single barrel, and I will also build one of the single storm bolters. And as usual, I'll be doing all my cleaning up off camera, just to make things go by a little bit quicker. So our first components we need are part 1 and 2 part 2s. So we'll just work our way around, snipping off all the sprue tabs. Of our first 3 components. Like the instructions say, we're going to clip more towards the narrow point on these larger tabs, like so. Just so we try not to damage these should just bend off. And then what we're going to do is clean up with our knife or mold line remover. This one's going to be a little bit difficult. So I will clean these up off camera. I'll be right back. So we have all our components cleaned up and we're ready to begin assembly. Before we go into it, I will show you how they will eventually start stacking. So each of the containers have a bottom and a top, and they have these 4 support struts along each end. And here we have little notches on the top, and they will just sit along like that. And like I said, there's grooves on the bottom, which the Aquila heads will help support once they stack on top of each other, like so. But on to construction. With our first part 1, we need to flip it upside down, like so. Then we put each of these little tabs into the bottom slots here. So first we want to run a little bit of glue into each hole and along the flat panel. And we push in like so. And we'll do that on the other side as well. Luckily, as we're building on a flat surface, the components will actually hold themselves in place fairly well. So while that's starting to dry, I'm going to go ahead and clip off the second part 1 off camera, and we'll be able to put the final touches to our model. Here we have our next piece 1, all clipped off and cleaned up. I've already applied the glue into each of the 4 notches on top and along the flat panels, and then we can just drop this into position. Wipe away any excess glue with our fingers. And we'll leave that to dry. I've already clipped off all the other components, so I'll just quickly clean them up and I'll be right back. So we've got all our remaining components. So we've got the 4 Aquila heads, which are components 5, 2 doors, part 3, and our controls, part 4. So we have a hollow container at the moment. You can, if you want, glue your doors in, or you can even leave them loose. And there's the option you can build them with one door open, just by resting it like so. As I already have quite a few sealed containers, I'm going to leave this one end open. So we want to put a little bit of glue just where the contact points meet for one end, and we push the door into place. And for the other side, we only want to put the glue on the bottom. And making sure the door is the right way around. So the skull facing down, but making sure it is upright. Easiest way to do it is to imagine it being closed, and then simply press in like so, and we'll allow it to dry. While that is drying, we can go ahead and attach the aquilers. So you just want to run a little bit of glue into each of these channels here. And then we have a quick look at the aquilers, which are very fiddly. You'll see each one has a little notch on either side. They'll just sit in there like so. And then once they're dried, as I mentioned earlier, they'll act as supports to hold additional containers that you might want to stack on top of them. Our last component is part 4, which is the door controls. Just want to run a little bit of glue in there. And it slides into position like so. Do that on both ends. And we have our finished container. So we are still missing the storm bolters, so we'll do that just now. So the storm bolters are each made up of 3 components, and they're all pretty much next to each other. So you've got part 6, the main body, and 7 and 8 are either side of the actual gun. So we'll cut these out. Like so. I'll get them quickly cleaned up. There we go. That's our 3 components all built, all cleaned up. So now what we need to do is apply a little bit of glue. So we just want to put it inside this little area here. So just a little bit there, a little bit there. And then bring in our storm bolter, and we have these small ledges here which will slot in like so. Do the same on this side. We just sandwich the support between the 2 sides of the gun. We have a storm bolter all done. And like the instructions say, you don't need to use any glue, they just sit in quite nicely with friction. So now you can protect your prized load. So the last thing I will show you to quickly do is one of the barrels. So we need the two halves of the barrel. So one half of the skull and the one half of the Aquila. I'll get those cleaned up. So we'll just dry fit first. So each barrel is one half of the hull. So you got top and a bottom, and they just slot in like so. So I want to put a little bit of glue down each of the sides, and then one little bit around the lip there, and one on the inside lip there. So you push the two together. Whoop. I really do have butterfingers today. There we go. That's our barrel all done. Once the glue's dry, we'll be able to clean up the joins. Now I will quickly clip off all the remaining components and we'll get back to a quick little overview before the end of the video. There we go. All our components are fully built. Frame's empty. We can yeet that. Goodbye, frame. And we'll have a quick close look at our finished container and ammo crates and fuel dump. So we have our 3 Promethean barrels there, our 4 ammo containers, and we have our fully glued, except for the storm bolters, container. So with the door being open, we can even store the ammo crates inside if we want to. Models can enter it and use it as cover, although it's a dead end as we know. So they can't really get through the other side as we've glued it shut. At least that opens up the opportunity for me to paint the interior if I wish. Although, if I wanted to do that, I would probably have left at least one of the sides loose. Glued the 2 tops and bottoms. But I'll just simply spray the base colour on the interior and maybe do a little bit of detailing towards one end. So that's it for part 1 of this issues video. So next time we come back with issue 14, we'll be looking at the paint guide on how to paint a munitorum container, and I will do one in this particular paint guide style, so I will teach you how to use the actual guide. So I'm just going to put basic flat colours on, and then we'll end up looking like that at the end of it. So we have our next playthrough in that video as well. So I've said so quite a few times. That's part 1 of the Warhammer 40,000 Imperium issue 14. All that's left to me to do is thank you for watching. Be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe. If you'd like to help out the channel, there's an affiliate link and a buy me a coffee link in the description down below. That way, somewhere along here. So I'll see you next time for more mad content. Goodbye.